only went to a year and a half of high school. Well, I started on the farms as a kid, anywhere from 15 on. National Grape Corporation in 1937 that had a building right here in Brockton, which was bought out by Welch. One day I asked the foreman, my boss, Murph, I need a raise. I was making 25 cents an hour. I only wanted a nickel. You can't do it, Ange. I says, okay. The next day, I went to Buffalo, went to the post office building over there on Washington and Swan, and joined the Navy. And that was in 1941, after Pearl Harbor. And when I was ready to go, I had to go into Buffalo, and ready to climb on the bus, and some guy come hollering out, hold him, hold him. We wondered what the heck happened. Well, we had a pretty good guest, Eleanor Roosevelt, and the president of Argentina wanted to view us. So we had to stand to attention, and I could almost reach out and touch Eleanor. That's how close she was. And after that, we were taken back to the terminal, and from there, we went to Providence, Rhode Island. In the fourth week, I was on my way to Boston to help put a ship into commission. The ship was a new type of destroyer of the Fletcher class. That's the name of my ship, the O'Bannon. As a third-class petty officer, I was a boatswain mate. I had deck duty, like repairing the ship or cleaning the ship or just taking care of the ship. While we're on their way, I was a pointer on one of the 5-inch guns. The pointer just brought the gun around this way, but then they had the elevator on the other side that ran the gun up and down this way. Our first engagement, which is going to be an anniversary in just 12 more days, was November the 13th of 1942 under Rear Admiral Callahan, Daniel Callahan. He was aboard the flagship, which was the flag at that time, the head ship, San Francisco. We were 4 destroyers, 5 cruisers, and 4 more destroyers in line. When you're in battle, you're in line. So what they called a T formation, that you could, if you can catch the Japanese in this type, you got all these guns firing at them. So we got into the T formation, was able to do some damage, but I saw 2 destroyers. Well, the task force number was 67.4. Task force 67.4, headed by Admiral Callahan. By the way, I used to be suspicious about Friday the 13th. That battle took place Friday the 13th. And like I say, 2 destroyers were blown out of the water. One of them was the Cushing of the Fredonia family, William Cushing. The third one was damaged by this Japanese battle wagon, the Hiei. It was a 14-inch gun. Every one of the shells, the reason why we didn't get hit is, like I told you, we were within 1,500 yards of the Jap fleet. And every shell that came out of that 14-inch gun went over us because we were that close to them. That was the first of the engagements. Well, when we got back to port, we had Admiral Halsey come aboard for a report. Skipper gave it to him, and there was a tough-looking guy. Oh God! But boy, he was a good commander, Admiral Halsey. Like I say, was at Guadalcanal the same time I was. I have to tell you about that. We were corresponding with one another with mail. One day, while we're anchored out of, while it was quiet at Guadalcanal, we were just cruising slowly back and forth. The motor whaleboat came in from the island and brought us mail. So after the motor whaleboat left and went back to the island, the mail was distributed out to everybody. So here we are sitting on deck. Anybody that wasn't on duty, reading our mail. I opened up this letter and I started reading it. All of a sudden, I looked at the date and I hollered out. I says, "Oh my God," just as loud as I could. And everybody was startled. They said, "What's the matter, Zanghi?" I says, "This letter, it was yesterday." "Oh, well, what about it?" So I says, "Well, that tells me my brother's on Guadalcanal." And here it was the next day that was postmarked. And that's how I knew. So right away I went up to my officer in charge and I said, "Mr. Simmons, I would like to go out." I showed him the letter and the date and all that, and I told him about my brother. He said, "Let's see what we can do, Zanghi." So he went up to the communications, got a hold of the island, and asked about if I could go over there. We got a reply back from the in charge over there, whoever's in charge of the Army. They says, "It would be nice, but we have enough trouble now, problems now." And well, I went with that, and but that was a good way of Tony knowing that he knew I was there, because with binoculars he knew the 450 was in the area, and but I didn't know. I had an idea that he was overseas. Out of it, I'm entitled to nine. Tell you how we got damaged. The last battleship, the last battle that we were in, were 3 destroyers: the Selfridge, the Chevalier, and the O'Bannon, in that order. against 9 Japanese destroyers. It was a night battle. All of them were actually night battles. The Salvage took a torpedo. The Chevalier took a torpedo. The Chevalier was the same type of ship that the O'Bannon was. In fact, the Chevalier was the 451 and we were the 450. And we were in line with one another, doing about 35 to 40 knots. And when the Chevalier took the torpedo, she almost stopped dead in the water because her engine room was hit. And we had to avoid cutting it in half. We had to steer to starboard. If we hadn't have done that, we'd have did more damage to our ship than we really did. But we hit it, glanced the side of it, and we lost about 25 or 30 foot of our bow when we hit the Chevalier. We went back into Noumea, which was on the Florida island of the Solomon Islands, which was like a repair base and supply base and all that.
On April 5th, 1943, returning from a night of shelling Japanese shore installations deep in New Georgia area of the Solomon Islands, our destroyer, the O'Bannon, as part of this force, picked up radar contact that turned out to be a large Japanese submarine cruising on the surface and apparently unaware of our presence. The Japanese lookouts undoubtedly were fast asleep. We approached rapidly and were preparing to ram the sub. Our captain and other officers on the bridge were trying to identify the type of sub and decided at the last minute that it could be a mine layer. Not wanting to blow up ourselves along with the sub, the decision was made that ramming was not a wise move. At the last moment, the rudder was swung hard to avoid a collision, and we found ourselves in a rather embarrassing situation as we sailed alongside of the Japanese submarine. On the board the sub, the Japanese sailors wearing dark shorts and dinky blue hats were sleeping on the deck. It would be considered a rude awakening. They sat up to see an American destroyer sailing alongside. I'm visualizing this. This is unbelievable. Were you part of that?
Yes.
Could you explain that in?
Yes. It's true of what you heard or whatever you got. We, one time, it was at night, we were out there just cruising slowly, patrolling. A Jap sub came up to, oh God, what do they call it, Jim, for air?
Recharge the battery.
Yeah, that and things like that. They did not know we were there. And they were at a distance where when you threw something, you can hit the target. Some of the boys, I didn't do it because I was at my station.
So you initially, though, you were coming in to possibly ram them, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was this potato bin out there where they had the potatoes stored. The guys just put those potatoes up, started tossing them, while the Japs, they finally knew that we were there. They were running for their 3-inch deck gun, and everybody, the guys that were throwing the potatoes, was throwing them at these guys, and they thought, the Japs thought it was grenades, and they were running back. And we got a plaque from the state of Maine. You tell people about that, oh, come on, don't give me that bone. But it's the truth. And the thing is, Captain McDonald Donald McDonald, who was recommended with the Silver Star and the Navy Cross.
They said, just the postscript for the camera, finally we were far enough away to bring our guns to bear and firing commenced.
Yes.
We kind of like got far enough to, all right, now we can shoot at each other. One of our shells managed to hit the sub's conning tower,
Right.
but the sub managed to submerge anyway. At that time, our ship was able to pass directly over the sub for a depth charge attack. Later information showed that the sub did sink.
The oil slick, yep. I'm glad that I fought during World War II and aboard the Obed.